कुन्देन्दु तुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रामृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शङ्कर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा।
Good morning to all the distinguished guests and participants present in the conference. We welcome you to the 26th National and 4th International Conference organized by Indian Institute of Technology Madras in association with Indian Society for Heat and Mass Transfer and American Society of Thermal and Fluid Engineers. As we are aware that the role of heat and mass transfer in modern engineering applications is quite significant. All over the world, some intensive research are in progress in all aspects of fluid flow and heat transfer using some theoretical, computational, and experimental approaches. The goal of this conference is to virtually gather scholars from all over the world to present advances in the field of transport phenomena and to provide an environment conducive to exchanging ideas and information. This conference will also provide an ideal environment to develop new collaborations on the fundamentals, applications, and products of the mentioned fields. This conference includes invited keynote talks by some distinguished experts from industry and academia and number of parallel technical sessions spread over for 4 days. We are happy to have among us distinguished scientist, Professor Anil Kakotkar, as the chief guest for the conference. We welcome you, sir. Now, I would like to request Conference Chair, Professor T. Sundararajan, to give an overview of the conference.
Good morning. Respected Chief Guest, Professor Anil Kakotkar, Head of Mechanical Engineering Department at IHMTC Madras, Professor Seshadri Sekhar, ISHMT President, Professor Pradeep Datta, ASTFE President, Professor Yong Tao, IHMTC Conference Secretaries, Professor Arvind Patamata and Professor Ashish Kumar Sen, international Indian delegates of the conference. It gives me great pleasure to extend a very warm welcome to all of you on behalf of the organizing team of IHMTC 2021. We would have been overjoyed if we could meet all of you physically at IIT Madras. But with the prevailing COVID situation, we are constrained to conduct the conference in fully online mode. We express our sincere thanks to the Indian Society for Heat and Mass Transfer, ISHMT, and the American Society of Thermal and Fluids Engineers, ASTFE, under whose auspices the present conference is being held at IIT Madras, with active cooperation from the Asian Union of Thermal Science and Engineering, AUTSE. Several challenges are facing us today with respect to sustainable energy options, environmental pollution and climate change, novel healthcare solutions, and novel material developments. There is a strong desire to do away with fossil fuels and switch over to hydrogen-based and renewable energy-based non-carbon technologies. Micro and nanoscale textured surfaces are introducing radical improvements in multi-phase flow, heat, and mass transfer. We do hope that the intense technical deliberations the next few days will lead us towards solutions for some of these daunting problems. The organizing team at IIT Madras has spent enormous efforts in arranging several plenary and keynote lectures by very eminent heat transfer researchers. Meticulous care has been applied towards maintaining high standards of contributed technical papers through a strict reviewing process. It is our ardent desire that the exciting technical exchanges between reputed academicians, students, and industrial experts during the conference will be extremely fruitful for all the delegates. Let me once again welcome you all to the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next, I would like to request Organizing Secretary, Professor Arvind Pattamata, to give the statistics on the conference.
Good morning to all the dignitaries and all the participants. It is a great pleasure and honor to welcome all the participants to the ISHMT ASTFE Heat and Mass Transfer Conference 2021. IHMTC 2021 is significant since it is commemorating the 50th year of the inception of ISHMT. And IIT Madras is organizing IHMTC through virtual mode due to the challenges imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic. We gratefully acknowledge the broad support and feedback from our colleagues of the Heat and Mass Transfer community that eventually rendered this year's virtual conference possible. The highlight of IHMTC 2021 is the participation of several eminent researchers in thermal sciences across different countries who will virtually deliver the plenary and keynote talks. There are 6 plenary lectures, including the Professor R.K. Ramachandran Endowment Lecture and Professor M.V. Krishnamurthy Endowment Lecture. There are 2 sponsored talks from ANSYS and COMSOL respectively, and there are 19 keynote lectures by eminent researchers in heat and mass transfer community from all across the globe. We appreciate the financial support from the sponsors, namely Teledyne FLIR, Intel, ANSYS, COMSOL, BRNS, and TSI Instruments, as well as Bagel House. The Bagel House continues to partner with IHMTC in publishing the conference proceedings in the Bagel House Digital Library. They also have agreed to bring out special issues of selected conference papers in 3 Bagel House journals, namely International Journal of Fluid Mechanics, Computational Thermal Sciences, and International Journal of Energy for a Clean Environment. It has been gratifying to see a positive response from the entire heat and mass transfer community in India to respond to the call of papers in the beginning of March 2021 under 10 different conference tracks covering both fundamentals and applications. We have received a total of 600 abstracts. Given the strong manning of the organizing committee and the technical committee, led by a team of 22 track chairs, each paper was subjected to a careful scrutiny by experts in their respective fields. We eventually selected 307 papers for oral presentation and 187 papers for e-poster presentations respectively. The number of delegates registered for the conference has exceeded 550. From a glimpse into IHMTC 2021 program schedule, we are convinced that this year's conference will reflect the state of the art in heat and mass transfer research, including novel scientific discoveries, cutting-edge technologies for industrial application, and as has been the case in the preceding biennial IHMTC conferences. We wish you all a stimulating and fruitful virtual conference for the next 3.5 days. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, I would request Professor Sheshadri Shekhar, Head of the Mechanical Engineering Department and co-patron of the conference, to address the gathering.
Thank you. Good morning to all of you, and good evening to some participants joining from other parts of the world. Warm welcome to all to the 26th National and 4th International ISHMT ASTFE Heat and Mass Transfer Conference. Special welcome to our distinguished chief guest, Professor Anil Kakotkar, also to Professor Pradeep Datta and Professor Yang. To make this event a great success, we have here the organizing committee headed by Professor Sundararajan, faculty colleagues, staff of ME department, and many other invitees. Thank you all for joining. We're glad that IIT Madras Mechanical Engineering Department is organizing this wonderful conference, which commemorates the 50th year of the inception ISHMT after the first Madras conference in 1971 by the late Professor R.K. Ramachandran. On behalf of the Department of Mechanical Engineering, it's my pleasure to invite to the department one of the largest in the world. At the outset, I'm delighted to report that despite the tough pandemic year, IIT Madras has sustained the #1 ranking among the engineering institutions in the NRF ranking for the 6th year in a row since the inception of the ranking, and also retained the position #1 for overall performance among the universities in India for the 3rd consecutive year. In world rankings, the department has retained its position among the best 50 to 100 over years. I congratulate the students, faculty, and staff of our department and institute for these achievements. It's unfortunate you're all not able to come to the excellent campus physically, and that too at this time of the year, which is very pleasant. But let me briefly give the glimpses of the department. It's a very big department, as I mentioned, with 63 faculty members, excluding the visiting and adjunct faculty and professors of practice. More than 1,500 students, with almost 50% of them are postgraduate students. We have 3 different streams of thermal design and manufacturing with 7 different labs, with cutting-edge research across the 6 research-focused groups such as advanced materials and design, energy systems, manufacturing, micro, nano, biosciences and engineering, and so on. I noticed that the conference is of a very big level with 6 plenary lectures, 19 keynote lectures, and oral and poster presentations of around 500 papers in the areas of encompassing heat and mass transfer, both fundamentals and applications. The conference will also provide an ideal environment to develop new collaborations on the fundamental and applications and products of the mentioned fields. In these few words, I thank one and all for joining this event, and also I congratulate the organizers once again for utilizing the very challenging current pandemic period by conducting this prestigious international conference in the virtual mode for the benefit of many. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We have among us IHMT President, Professor Pradeep Datta. Professor Datta held faculty positions at Columbia University and at the Tennessee Tech University before joining the Indian Institute of Science as a faculty member in 1996. He has been elected Fellow of the ASME, ASTFE, and Fellow of all the 4 National Academies of India in Science and Engineering. He is a J.C. Bose National Fellow awarded by the Department of Science and Technology. Currently, he is the President of the Indian Society for Heat and Mass Transfer. He is also the co-director of the General Motors IISc Collaborative Research Lab and co-lead of the India-US consortium called Solar Energy Research Institute for India and the United States. I would like to request Professor Pradeep Datta to say a few words.
Good morning, Dr. Anil Kakotkar, Chief Guest of IHMT 2021, Professor Yong Tao, President of ASTFE, Professor T. Sundarajan, Conference Chair, IHMTC 2021, Professor Arvind Patamata, Organizing Secretary of IHMTC 2021, Professor Ashish Sen, Organizing Secretary, IHMTC 2021, Professor Sheshadri Shekhar, Head Mechanical Engineering Department, IIT Madras, members of the organizing committee, student volunteers, professors, invited speakers, and all the participants of the conference. On behalf of members of ISHMT, let me first congratulate the organizing team at IIT Madras for successfully putting together such a large event in online mode for the first time. This is a flagship event of ISHMT held every 2 years, and it provides a platform for Indian researchers in this field to interact. Exactly 50 years ago, the first conference was organized at IIT Madras in 1971 under the mentorship of late Professor Arkat Ramachandran. Ever since the first one in 1971, it has been organized regularly every 2 years in various parts of the country, and it has grown in terms of quality and quantity of papers, participation of delegates as well. Since 1993 until 2013, 11 conferences, that is the 12th until the 22nd, were organized in collaboration with American Society of Mechanical Engineers. The last 3 conferences, that is 23rd, 24th, and the 25th, were organized in collaboration with American Society of Thermal and Fluids Engineers, that is ASTFE. And starting from the 25th edition at IIT Roorkee, the Asian Union of Thermal Science and Engineering have also joined. And this has also been brought in, the society, that is AUTAC, has been brought in as a collaborative partner along with ASTFE. Clearly, these collaborations have enhanced the character, reputation, and stature of this conference. We at ISHMT are immensely pleased that IIT Madras is hosting the 2021 edition of this conference to mark its 50th year. For the first time in its history, the conference will be held in fully virtual mode. If we look at the program schedule, it is quite evident that very eminent and highly reputed heat transfer researchers are delivering the plenary keynote lectures, and there are excellent contributory talks and posters as well. The papers and posters being presented have gone through a professional reviewing process conducted by the organizing team. So on behalf of ISHMT, I once again congratulate the organizing team led by Professor T. Sundarajan as chair and by Professor Pattamata and Professor Sen as organizing secretary for this wonderful arrangement. Okay. So I am sure that all delegates will have wonderful 4 days of online participation and enjoy the new experience of virtual interaction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. We also have among us Professor Yong Tao, President of ASTFE. Dr. Yong Tao is the Betty L. Gordon Endowed Chair and Distinguished Professor and Department Chair of Mechanical Engineering. Dr. Tao is a Fellow of ASME, past Chair of ASME Heat Transfer Division, Founding Board Director and President of American Society of Thermal and Fluid Engineers, Editor-in-Chief of Thermal Research Heat Transfer Research Journal, and a licensed professional engineer. In 2005, he was the faculty leader of the award-winning Solar Decathlon entry. During 2008 International Olympics, he served as a project director of the American House, as playing a vital role in building better international collaboration in the area of energy efficient buildings. I would like to request Professor Yong Tao to say a few words.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, distinguished guests. Professor T. Sundarajan, Organization Secretary Professor Arvind Pattamata, distinguished ISHMT President Professor Pratik Dutta, and distinguished chief guest Professor Anil Kakolkar. And again, my name is Yong Tao. I'm president of the American Society of Thermal and Fluids Engineers, also known as ASTFE. And on behalf of ASTFE, it is my great honor and pleasure to offer my warmest welcome to all the conference participants. And our congratulations goes to organizing team at the IIT Madras, led by Professor Sundarajan, for the great success of this 26th National and 4th International Heat and Mass Transfer Conference. The ASTFE is established in 2014. Our long-term vision is to be the leading organization that brings thermal and fluids engineers, researchers, young, early career research and scientists all together to exchange ideas and present results for an impact on the new emerging and challenging problems in the research, technology development, and environment. ASTFE is very active in promoting international collaboration, and we are so happy to be a collaborating society with ISHMT for the last 3 conferences. And also in particularly in this conference, we congratulate wholeheartedly the 50th anniversary of the Indian Society of Heat and Mass Transfer. And so happy to see that this unique event is celebrated in this 2021 edition of the conference. So on behalf of ASTFE, again, I personally wish all attendees to have a wonderful, productive experience during the next few days of online participation. And of course, finally, I would say that I wish I would be there. I've been in India before. I really cannot wait to visit IIT Madras again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. We have Dr. Anil Kakotkar, Chancellor of Homi Bhabha National Institute, as the chief guest for the conference. Dr. Kakotkar is a renowned Indian nuclear physicist and mechanical engineer. Dr. Kakotkar was the chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission of India and the secretary to the Government of India. He was the director of the Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Trombay, from 1996 to 2000. He was awarded the Padma Vibhushan, India's second highest civilian honor, on 26 January 2009. I would like to request Dr. Anil Kakotkar to officially inaugurate the conference virtually and address the conference.
Professor T. Sundarajan, Conference Chair, Professor Arvind Patamatta, and Professor Ashish Sen, Organizing Secretaries of the conference, Professor Sheshadri Shekhar, Head Mechanical Engineering Department, IIT Madras, Professor Pradeep Datta, President, Indian Society for Heat and Mass Transfer, Professor Yong Tao, President, American Society for Thermal and Fluids Engineers, distinguished participants present in this 26th National and 4th International ASHMT and ASTFE Heat and Mass Transfer Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me express my gratitude for this invitation and the honor for me to be a part of this conference, particularly in the inaugural session. Actually, this brings back old memories. As Professor Datta said, in fact, I was present at the first heat and mass transfer conference at IIT Madras, which was organized by Professor Arkat Ramchandra. Though I subsequently moved on more to the structural domain, being the practicing engineers in nuclear energy, I used to deal a lot with heat and transfer in those days. And so I have attended a few initial conferences. I remember attending one later at IIT Kanpur. And clearly the Indian Heat and Mass Transfer Conference has moved from that time to a great stature. And of course, I feel quite enthused, quite proud, quite excited that we are today in the 50th year of this biennial conference and are participating in the 26th national conference. Looking at the program of the conference and the statistics that we just heard, it's very clear that that the conference has grown in stature in a very significant way. And of course, it was a comprehensive meeting all along, but the subject itself has kind of grown both in terms of problem solving and also in terms of the individual specialized domains which contribute to understanding of heat and mass transfer processes in a more fundamental way. And it's just fantastic that we have this conference, and particularly the keynote addresses spanning nearly the entire spectrum. The subject of heat and mass transfer, as was mentioned, is clearly becoming more important by the day. Today, of course, we are all talking about global warming, and many things that are understood today in the context of why global warming, what are the ramifications, what is the progression, and how it would affect different regions of the world, and the understanding of that in a very granular way, because I would like to know how it's going to affect the area in which I live. And I think the discipline of various branches of sciences, and of course, many of them impact on the heat and mass transfer, have played a great role in tremendous progress that the world has made, and brought in scientific evidence to the world community, the decision makers, in terms of the crisis, or for that matter, the emergency at hand, and the need to address that in in all its dimensions and on a very urgent basis. Let me use this occasion to talk about some of the important problems, some which have been solved, some which have not been solved, and the important role the community of heat and mass transfer engineers has played in addressing these problems. Since I was talking about global warming and the efficient utilization of coal, because carbon dioxide is one of the prime causes of global warming. And I remember right since the days of the fertilizer industry in India, particularly the Talcher and the Ramagundam projects, where rightly it was decided that we would have this fertilizer industry based on coal, and the key was gasification of Indian coal. And coal gasification is not a new topic. It has been practiced the world over, but essentially utilizing the better coal. The Indian coal with its high ash content and attendant both the thermophysical properties of the coal phase and the ash phase, and the impact it has on the process of coal gasification. So because you have to have combustion and also gasification, and the two happen. The dynamics of the two is quite different. The time scales of the two are quite different, and it has been a problem which I think is understood, but the hard solution probably is still eluding us. The Talcher and Ramagundam plants were a failure. Now we have another attempt to set up a fertilizer plant at Talcher, and I'm sure we would have learned from the experience of the past, the tremendous knowledge that has been gathered since that time. But from whatever I know, because I have been involved in looking at this development on an experimental scale, and I know there are successes, but one is eagerly waiting to see a large-scale coal gasifier functioning and contributing to the fertilizer production, which in my view, of course, there could be many reasons, but in my view, one single aspect which I'm mentioning has put fertilizer industry in the country through a very checkered history. We've gone through use of coal, then naphtha, then gas, and they all have, coal has technical problem, others have their own techno-economic problem, volatility and prices. And the country is still dependent to a large measure on import of fertilizers. But I must say that we have done well. For example, the fluidizers and the fluidized bed combustion, I think country has done extremely well. And there has been a lot of progress in leveraging fluidized bed technology for more efficient use of coal. Now, of course, with the approach to net zero, which we are all contemplating, uh, as per the IPCC recommendations, to reach that target by 2050 for the world as a whole. In India, we have kind of committed to reach that target by 2070 because we have a much larger development deficit. And so we have a much larger additional energy requirements to support development of India. And of course, very heavy dependency on coal. But I think this target of 1970 looks to me a very well considered target date. And between now and 2070, or in fact, significantly earlier than that, because by 2070, one would want industrial scale operations on a scale which will really help country to achieve net zero to be in place. And that is a significant challenge. We know the renewable energy is going to play a big role, but most of the renewable energy produces electricity at first. Whereas in energy usage, we require energy usage as electricity, as heat, and also at times as process inputs, because you do require carbon, you do require hydrogen or hydrocarbons for different process uses. And so while the trend earlier has been to convert hydrocarbons to or coal to electricity, now time has come to think about converting electricity, or even better, the high temperature heat that would be available through renewable energy, whether in the form of solar thermal or in the form of high temperature nuclear reactors, and leverage this high temperature heat to produce hydrogen, and then use that hydrogen to create fluid fuels in different forms. One can use hydrogen as hydrogen, but one can also use hydrogen along with, call it biomass or other chemical species, to meet different requirements of the industry. So I think there is a whole lot of energy transformation, or rather clean energy transformation, that one expects to see in coming decades. And clearly in India, we will need to do it in Indian context. And we cannot afford to just copy technologies which will get developed, because they will get developed in a sequence, in an order of priority. And those priorities elsewhere may not necessarily be same as they would be in India. And I gave that example of coal gasification essentially in this context of priorities. We did everything. We have comprehensive capabilities, but if our priorities are not right, many times we miss the bus. And it is in that context that I think in this new clean energy transformation, we need to organize our research and development, our development priorities, and the technologies that are required to realize those development priorities, leveraging Indian resources and Indian technologies. And that is the major challenge before the heat and mass transfer community in India. And of course, when we talk about research, we don't talk about countries. We talk about the world of knowledge as a whole. and the scientific community is all interconnected, and that has contributed a lot to the development of the globe as a whole. So I think while we have made a lot of progress, there is obviously a tremendous opportunity for the entire community to look at the challenges ahead, uh, leverage their expertise, come together and address the challenges in a with cross in a multidisciplinary manner. So, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
All right. So, I would like to give some examples where there has been some progress made in the country in this context. Let me begin with solar thermal. As I mentioned, solar thermal would be important, of course, for producing electricity. And we have Professor Datta, the president of the Indian Society of Heat and Mass Transfer, who has been pioneering these efforts of leveraging solar thermal for a more efficient production of electricity. But as I said, the solar thermal would also be a route to produce hydrogen more directly, and that is through thermochemical splitting of water. So I have been working. This has remained at concept stage at the moment, but there is a program which being implemented where we're talking about a 2 megawatt system where the furnace, the solar furnace, is located on ground, and you collect energy through heliostats, shine it on an hyperbolic mirror located at a height, and get the solar energy back on the furnace on the ground. And the idea is that you can, of course, use it for production of electricity, but tomorrow you can use it for several pyrochemical, pyrometallurgical operations and splitting of water to produce hydrogen being one of them. I think we need many such efforts to be pursued further. Even if one were to talk about leveraging electricity to produce hydrogen, which seems to be realizable little earlier, and people are talking about green hydrogen produced through electrolysis using green electricity. Now, even there, of course, there are different technologies available there, but I, for one, believe that steam electrolysis, which leverages ceramic technologies, essentially the same technologies that goes in the solid oxide fuel cells, would be ultimately the winner. Today, the capital cost involved in these kind of technologies may be high, but given the fact that at higher temperatures, the energy involved in or required for splitting water molecule becomes less. With steam electrolysis, one can produce hydrogen with much lower quantum of electricity use. And that is where that economy might come in. And so on one side, reduction in the capital cost of the electrolyzer cells, and on the other side, improvement in the efficiency of the process of electrolysis could produce commercially competitive green hydrogen. But key here is actually thermal management. And I'm again personally aware of these challenges. The kind of, because if you have to go to high temperature, you realize efficiency in the electrolytic process, but it's a huge material challenge. And to address that material challenge, we need to address the thermal management crisis or thermal management challenges. And I think this is a non-trivial challenge which must be quickly addressed. And sooner we do, better. We are all hearing about small and medium reactors or small modular reactors. This objective of that modularity is, of course, on one side to be able to make them in factories, so you leverage the benefit of mass production. But more importantly, these reactors have better safety characteristics. The aim is that these reactors should have no impact in public domain, because one of the crises that we face in the context of nuclear is the trauma it creates because of large-scale evacuation that becomes necessary in case of a severe accident. And so the aim is to design a reactor, develop a system which can virtually eliminate the impact in public domain. And that's one of the objectives of small modular reactor. I must inform you that in India, we have a full-fledged design of advanced heavy water reactor, a 300 megawatt system, where it has been proven not just by analysis, but also by large-scale experiments involving the power sources to the level of maybe tens of megawatts. And the entire thermal hydraulics of this reactor for the operational phase, as well as looking at accidents, design backed up by large-scale experiment work, laboratory experiments, but also progressively scaling to kilowatt scale, megawatt scale, and 10 megawatt scales. And this is there. And I have been suggesting that we should now leverage that experience, that data. And also we have experience of building a small pressurized water reactor for use in submarines, nuclear submarines. And so we combine that and create an Indian small and modular reactor. And we can do that quickly because so much of experience is available. We can do that because we have the industrial manufacturing experience. And so we must do that and locate a large number of small modular reactors at sites that would get vacated by retiring thermal plants. So in addition to the 700 megawatt units that we have, which is required for large scale nuclear capacity addition, we have this opportunity of leveraging our heat and mass transfer capability. And of course, if you repackage it, redesign it, you would require a lot of further work. But I think country has the capability of doing so. So I think all I'm saying is that there are important national challenges that are before the community engaged in heat and mass transfer, and that represents a great opportunity for us. Of course, I'm conscious that on one side, we look at challenges and leverage our knowledge to address them, but we must go deep in subjects, and the community has done well. from the days of empirical approach to heat and mass transfer. Today we are talking about looking at all phenomena involved in heat and mass transfer in the context of multi-physics models, multi-scale analysis, and it's very interesting that today the analytical capabilities allows us to look at even benefits of nano. So you could look at, for example, the great benefit you can derive from nanostructured surfaces, or you could derive benefit from small quantum of nano sort of nuclei, nanosolutes floating in the liquid, and can make a big difference to the performance, call it in heat transfer, call it in stability, and so on. So it is, I think, all in all, a great challenge. Large number of people who are present there, they would exchange their work, their insights. New networks could be formed to address the challenges being faced by different people. And that is the contribution such a conference has been making, and I'm sure will continue to make going forward. So all in all, I'm very happy to be a part of this important conference, and I wish the conference all success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, I would request Organizing Secretary, Professor Ashish Kumar Sen, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good morning, all. On behalf of the Organizing Committee of IHMTC 21, I extend a hearty vote of thanks to our chief guest, Dr. Anil Kakodkar, who spared time from his busy schedule to grace this occasion. Sir, thank you for sharing your thoughts on the importance of heat and mass transfer research and how it could solve some of the open problems, challenges facing the society. This will surely be going to encourage us in our future efforts. I take this opportunity to thank ASTFE President, Professor Young Tao, and ISHMT President, Professor Pradeep Datta, for their support in organizing the conference. Thank you for your suggestions and advice. Thank you, Professor Sekhar and the Mechanical Engineering Department at IIT Madras for the encouragement. Thank you, Professor T. Sundarajan, for chairing the conference and for being there. Thanks to the National and International Advisory Committee and the executive body of ISHMT for extending help and support. Thanks to the conference web page designer, Apkert, for a wonderful conference web platform, and Begel House for the digital library and the special issues that are going to come up. We also thank all the sponsors, ANSYS, Council, Begel House, TSI, Intel, Teledyne, Flare for the financial support. Special thanks to all the track chairs, session chairs, reviewers, speakers, presenters, and more importantly, the student volunteers for shouldering the responsibility of organizing IHMTC 21. Finally, we acknowledge the help and support of the entire heat and mass transfer community, faculty colleagues, the administration at IIT Madras, and the staffs. We, the organizing committee, thank everyone who has been part of the conference, even in small ways. And with your cooperation, we hope IHMTC 21 will surely turn out to be a successful one. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The inauguration session completes here. So I would like to request our dignitaries to kindly log out from this session and then log into the oral talks and plenary talk session, which will be starting as per our schedule.
Just to add on to that, all the other sessions can be accessed via the virtual portal using your email ID. So I think we can log out now and we can log in through the virtual portal to access the remaining sessions. Thank you.